Hi, in this video we will talk about Openstreetmaps and how to use it offline in Android. So this video has several parts. In the first part we will have an introduction to OpenStreetMaps and Mapsforge, which is a library for using OpenStreetMaps in Android. Then we will talk about creating we will start creating our Android application, a new Android application. Then we will add Mapsforge to our application. Next, we will create the layout of our application. Then we will write the map code. And next, we will get the map files that we need to use for our application. And finally, we will run our application to see the result. So let's get started. OpenStreetMap is a set of technologies that are created to make it easier to use maps for free for everyone. In fact, with OpenStreetMaps, everyone can have access to free maps, can use them in their applications, and it has a lot of software, a lot of different software for using it. For example, it has software for creating maps, it has software for using it on different platforms, it has many different libraries, and all of these are on the umbrella of OpenStreetMaps. But what is Mapsforge? Mapsforge is a library for using OpenStreetMaps in vector format for mobile devices, and it currently supports only Android, but in future maybe support for iOS also will be added. So in this video we will use OpenStreetMaps library Mapsforge for creating our maps, because it has very good support for offline maps, and also it has vector support, and because it works with vector format, it has the capability that allows it to be used with very high detail, because it uses SVG and it uses vector. So in the first part we will create our application. So I open Android Studio and create a new application. Okay, I click new project, then empty activity, next. Let's name our application my offline map, for example, and check the settings. API 21 as the minimum SDK. However, you can set this even lower, because Mapsforge has support for many different versions of Android. So the language is also Kotlin. I press finish and wait for the project to be created. In fact, let's change the save location. This is a symlink location, so it will create problems for me. Android Studio has bad support for symlink locations, so I use media. Okay, now it's better. This is the real location. I press finish and wait for the project to be created. Okay, our project is created. I go to the Gradle files and build.gradle file for the app module and enable view binding, because it makes it easier to access view components in my layout. So build features, I add build features under Android, and then view binding true. I set it to true and press sync now. This will enable view binding, and now that our project is created, I'm gonna add Mapsforge to our application. For this, I go to the website, to the GitHub page for Mapsforge. So I open my web browser, Firefox, and I can open it directly with GitHub github.com Mapsforge/Mapsforge. And it's gonna open it. There we go. As you can see, this is the project page for Mapsforge. You can see there has been several releases, and the final release is 0.18.0, and there are several guides for using it. As you can see, for example, it has an introduction. It says what this is, how it works. In this part of the video, we are interested in integration guide. So I open integration guide, and here we see the dependencies that we need to add to our application. As you can see, it has several parts: core, Android, desktop, POI, etc. So because I want the core functionality, I am gonna copy the whole lines under core. So this gives me the core functionality. I copy these lines with Control-C back to Android Studio and add it under dependencies. So Mapsforge dependencies, I copy them here, I paste them here, and then under Android, I copy these two lines that are specific to Android and paste them again inside this file. And also there's a component for POI, or point of interest. Although we will not use it in this video, I'm gonna add them. Maybe later you will continue developing this application and use this functionality and component as well. So the core part for POI, and also the Android specific libraries or packages. I paste them, and you can see there are let me see, looks like they were not copied, but now they are fine. Okay, you can see that there's quite large number of packages for Mapsforge. However, most of these packages are small, so these many packages and dependencies that we are adding will not add much to the size of our APK. So now I'm gonna rename the current version part to 0.18.0. I select this part and then select Control. I press Control, Shift, Alt and J. This will allow me to rename all these occurrences of current version. So I type 0.18.0, and all these current versions are renamed to this version, and I press sync now. Nice, build successful, and looks like all the dependencies are added to our application. Now we are ready to create our layout. So let's go to our layout file, activity main. And here I'm gonna remove the hello world. I'm gonna add a button here from the palette. We will use this button to open a map from the user's storage on the device. So for the text, I type open map or open of local map. Let's give it an ID like open map refactor. And also I add a special view from the library that we added, and that is the map view that will render our map and display it. So it's from the org.mapsforge.map.android.view.mapview. Let's give it a 0dp width and 0dp height to match constraints, and its constraint top to top of parent constraint bottom to bottom of parent, constraint start to start of parent, and constraint end to end of parent. Also give it an ID, Android ID @ plus ID slash map view, or simply map. Okay, now back to our main activity, and before that let's extract this as string resource with Alt and Enter. And here in the main activity, because I have enabled view binding, I can use a binding here. So I say private latenit var b for binding, and its type is coming from the name of the layout file, so it is activity main binding, and I initialize it in the onCreate method. Let's import it this way, and I say initialize it here with activity main binding dot inflate. I pass it layout inflator, and for set content view I'm gonna type b.root. Now I can have access to all the components of this layout. So I say b open map, which is our button for opening the map, and then set on click listener. Okay, now it's time to write our map code and how we open and display and render our map. So because we will open a system dialog to let the user select the map file, in fact we need a contract, we need an activity contract which allows us to open an activity. So this contract is created with, I created as an activity contract variable. You can name it whatever you want, or simply I name it contract. And because we need to get the result of the user selection, we need to register for activity result this way. Register for activity result, and the first parameter is a contract. So the type of the contract that we need to specify is activity result contracts, and import activity result contracts and activity start activity for result. This is the contract that we need, and the second parameter is a callback that we will receive, and it will give us the result. So as you can see, it gives us result in the it parameter. So I specify the name as result, and now we can have access to the result. This result contains an intent that in turn contains a URI which specifies the path of the map that the user has selected. So we can extract map information from it, we can create a map file from it, and then we can feed it to our map renderer. So now let's do this. When the result is received, let's extract from the result. Let's extract its intent, which is data, and then if it is not null, let's extract its URI with data, and we use the safe parameters because we are in Kotlin and these are nullables. So now I'm gonna pass it to another method that I'm gonna define to open this map, to open this URI and render our map. So let's define a method fun open map. This will receive a URI, so I'm gonna pass the URI from the intent to open map. So open map this way, and because these are nullables and this gives us a nullable URI, but we need to make sure that it is, Kotlin needs to make sure it is not null. So I use the leave me alone operator to tell Kotlin that please leave me alone. I'm sure that this is not null, or at least let's assume this is not null. Or to make it a little bit safer, I say let it now gives me a URI, and now I can simply call open map with this URI. Much better now. Okay, now let's write the body of our open map. First, in this method we need to initialize our map. Note that because we are using view binding, our map is easily accessible without using find view by ID. So I can say b.map dot, let's specify some parameters for it. Let's customize and configure some properties of it. For example, map scale bar, let's make it visible, is visible, true, and then b dot set b.map dot set built-in zoom controls, which will make visible the built-in zoom controls. Again, I pass in true, and then for the renderer we need a cache. So I create a cache with Android util class. Android util, let's import Android util, and then create tile cache. This needs a context, for which I pass in the context of this class, and then the second parameter is the cache dir or the ID. If we use this format, we need an ID. I use my cache, and then we need the tile size. For the tile size, we can extract it from b.map. We can get it from the map model dot display model dot tile size. This gives us the tile size, and then the ratio, screen ratio, we pass in 1f for this, And finally, we need the overdraw parameter. For this, I use b.model, b.map.model dot frame buffer model dot overdraw factor. Okay. One downside of the Mapsforge library is that these parameters, different components of different classes, are not very well documented, so I'm not sure exactly what overdraw factor, for example, does, or what screen ratio is for. But you can follow the boilerplate code that is available on the GitHub page to get started with the code. And after we have created our cache, we need to create a stream. This stream will allow us to create the map store that we need to render our map. So content resolver dot open input stream, and I pass in the URI here. This will give me a stream. If you hover over this, you can see that it returns input stream, but we need input file stream or file input stream. So I convert this to file input stream, the type that we need. Import file input stream, import. Let's now create the map store with map store and map file. This is a map file that we need to create. Import map file and then pass your stream to it. Then we need to create a renderer layer to add to our map. So I name it render layer and initialize it with tile renderer layer. Import tile renderer layer. It takes several parameters like tile cache, I pass in cache, like the map store, like the map view position. I can again get this from the map, so b map model map view position, and our graphic factory instance, it is Android graphic factory class, and it's a singleton, so we need to get its single instance with this and import Android graphic factory. One thing that we should have done so far is the instantiation or initialization of Android graphic factory. So before all of these, in the onCreate method, we should have done that. So here in the onCreate method, after super.onCreate, I initialize Android graphic factory. This is the Android graphic factory that allows all graphic operations to be performed by this library. So Android graphic factory dot create instance, and this requires a context for which I'm gonna pass the context of the application. Okay. Now we have our render layer and not much work is left. Then we set the theme of our render layer render layer dot set XML render theme, for which I pass a default theme from the internal. There's a class called internal render theme, and it has a default theme. Internal render theme, I imported. And then we specify the location on the map to display. But first, to display our map and to use the render layer that we have created, I say b.map layer manager, because a map consists of several layers and we have created a layer that we need to add. So I say layer manager dot layers dot add, and I'm gonna pass the layer that I have created. The layer is render layer. And then this will display our map, but we need to say which part of the map the application needs to show us. So we do that with b.map set center. We are setting the center of the map, and this requires a coordinate, a geographical coordinates. So it is a lat long. So I say lat long, I specify lat long here, or simply I can create several lat longs for in the class level with companion object. For example, for Berlin, I can create a lat long for Berlin, lat long. I have prepared these geographical coordinates before, so I write them down: 52, 5200, and 13, 40, 50 for Berlin, and val, for example, Alabama, its lat long is 32, 31, 82, 86, 90, 23. Here I set the center to Berlin, for example. And by the way, the Mapsforge library has been created by a German university. It's the Freie University, and it started back in 2008. So it's good to show Berlin here, and it's the sample map that is also displayed by many of the demos by the library. But you can select any map that you like, as long as the map format is compliant and is compatible. So b.map set center, and then we set the zoom level for our map view. So I say b.map set zoom level, and I specify 10, for example. And that's it. This will display our map, but we have created a contract that we need to use to open the map. So here, when the button is clicked, I'm gonna say contract.launch. And for this contract, I need an intent to send my request. So let's create an intent, import intent, and the intent's action is intent action open document. I'm opening a document, in fact, and then I use apply to set further options on the intent. So for example, the type of the intent, because I need to be able to select every map file that I want. I simply specify this type, this MIME type, star, which means you can select any file, but note that you cannot use every type of file for your map. You only need specific file types. And also we need a category for our intent. So intent, category, openable, and that's it. Now we can open our map, we can launch our application and open the map. But first, before running the application, we need to get our maps and put them in the internal storage or the SD card of our phone. So I open my emulator. While our emulator is starting, we can go and find the map files. Note that in the home page for the project, there's a section for compiling your own maps, which means creating your own maps or getting precompiled maps. We are gonna select precompiled maps to get one of the prepared maps, one of the already available maps. So you can see there's a section for Mapsforge server that also says not suitable for mass downloads, which means you should not do automated or mass downloads from this server because it's a limited server. So we are going to do a manual download from here. I open it. There are several sections, version 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna select the latest version. And then because we need the Berlin, I go to Europe. And then here select Berlin, Germany first, and then Berlin. I have already downloaded it, so I don't need to download it. However, you can select any city that you like, and these end in the map extension, so this is important. The format that we are going to use is .map. And once you have your maps, you can open them and you can drag them to your phone, or you can transfer them to your phone so that you will be able to open them. So let's wait for the emulator to start, and my system is a little bit slow, maybe too much slow. So finally our application is running, the emulator is started, and now we can check if our app is working. So we have this button, we need to press it to open the map file. So let's try it. Press. It opens the system dialog to browse the device storage. And we don't have the file yet, so we need to copy the map file to our device. So let's open that. I open my file browser. I go to the path that contains the map files. So software and maps. Here I copy Berlin by dragging it to the emulator, copying. Alright, let's go to downloads, Berlin. I select the file, and there we go. The map is being rendered, and because my device is very slow, it takes considerable time to render. However, on normal Android devices, and if you are testing it on your real device, it will be pretty fast. You can see that the scale bar as well as the built-in zoom controls are enabled as we enabled them in code. And that's it. You can download any map file from that website, mapsforge.org, and you can run them on your device. You can render them. You don't need any internet connection for your map to work because it works completely offline. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And thank you for your support. Note that before I end up this video, this was just the tip of the iceberg, because you can do a lot more with this map. I only displayed it in my activity. You can do a lot of things like adding your location overlays. You can work with overlays. You can draw on your map. You can do a lot of things with this library on the map. And even, as I mentioned, you can have your custom maps. Provided that you create your custom maps, you create your custom map files, and then you can use them on your devices. You can distribute them to your users so that they can use your map, and so on and so forth. So see you in the next video, that I don't know when it will be, but hopefully soon.